Hello and welcome to CrossTalk. I'm Peter Lavelle. But before, let's see how Pakistan is ranked when it comes to terrorism.
A failed state? Pakistan's economic situation has deteriorated to the brink of collapse during 2010. And now, with the assassination of Salman Taseer, the political situation reaches the point of despair for the major ruling party. According to the Maplecroft, Pakistan is world's second terrorism risk country, while Somalia is at the top. Iraq and Afghanistan follow Pakistan on the terrorism risk index list. Thus, there is an ongoing frustration that Pakistani officials are not doing enough to combat terrorist groups in the country's tribal areas. And the Obama administration has decided to offer Pakistan more military, intelligence, and economic support and to intensify U.S. efforts to forge a regional peace. Peter?
Okay, Dan, I'd like to go to you. I mean, the headline up, plunging into the abyss. Increased violence and radicalism is tearing Pakistan apart. Can a country that is so polarized remain a staunch ally in Washington's so-called war on terror? To discuss the political situation in Pakistan, I'm joined by Dan Hiom in Dubai. He is the editor of the news service PakistanKakudahaviz.com. In Beirut, we have Robert Fisk. He's the Middle East correspondent for The Independent. And in Washington, we go to Lisa Curtis. She is a senior research fellow at the Heritage Foundation and another member of our CrossTalk team, Yelena Hunga. CrossTalk rules in effect. That means you can jump in when you want. Robert, I want to go to you first. Last week, we had a popular liberal governor in Pakistan assassinated. His assassin has turned into a national hero for some people in Pakistan. And the lawyers that used to play such an important role in defending civil society, many young lawyers are lining up to defend him. Is Pakistan falling apart?
Well, you know, I've covered Pakistan for 34 years, and I've always been asked the same question, and I don't think Pakistan is falling apart. I think Pakistan is a country of people who read a lot. They're very cultured people, Pakistanis. They read a lot. They learn a lot. They are much greater learners than the Arabs are, though they are Muslims like them for the most part. I think Pakistani people have a terrible government, have a terrible regime. I think the government of Pakistan is really awful. It is totally corrupt, and I don't know how you can de-corruptize a country. You know, it's easy to say corruption is the great sin of a country. Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Lebanon, you can name them all, and they're all true, they are corrupt. But how do you de-corrupt a country? I don't know. And I don't know how you do it with Pakistan.
Okay, but Robert, how a country that is so corrupt, can it be a good, staunch ally of the United States in its war on terror, as I started out the program?
Oh, yes, of course it can. The United States wants corrupt countries. It loves corrupt countries. You know that. Vietnam was a corrupt country, and the United States loved it and supported it and went to war for it. America loves corrupt countries because they will do what they're told to do when they're paid money. This is the problem.
Okay.
The real issue is, how do you deal with a country that has become corrupted?
Okay.
How do you de-corrupt it?
All right.
And I don't know the answer to this question.
Lisa,
I don't think you know.
Lisa, can Pakistan be a good ally of the United States if it is so corrupt as Robert has just said? And it's add on the caveat. Robert thinks that the United States likes the fact that Pakistan is corrupt because it's pliable.
Well, I do agree with Robert that Pakistan is not falling apart, but I obviously strenuously disagree with him that the U.S. likes to work with corrupt countries. This is simply not the case. It makes it much more difficult. And in fact, that's the difficulty that we're facing, is that there is sort of growing disillusionment with the Zardari government, particularly for the handling of the floods. The Zardari government was seen as providing a very feeble response to the massive flooding that took place in Pakistan earlier this year. And so, frankly, it's difficult. The U.S. wants to support those who are willing to stand up to extremism, and certainly Zardari has been willing to speak out very strongly against the murder of Salman Taseer, the Punjab governor, last week. And this says something, because a lot of people in Pakistan, not only the religious parties, but the lawyers, as you said, some even in the media, have actually been condoning the murder. And I think what this has told U.S. policymakers is that extremism in Pakistan is much deeper and broader within the society than I think people previously realized. That said, even though some people might say Pakistan's already lost to extremism, U.S. support can make no difference, it's a corrupt regime, all of these things that Robert was saying, I disagree. I think that the U.S. does need to continue to support the government, to strive to have a partnership with Pakistan, support those who are willing to stand up to the extremists, and also work with the military in its efforts to try to stamp out this terrorist scourge which is threatening to overtake Pakistan.
Okay, Dan, if I can go to you, where the word extremism has been brought up here. A lot of people in Pakistan would say the extremists are really the United States and its drone attacks on civilians on its sovereign soil. I mean, you know, it depends on how you want to define extremism and how, you know, what end of the stick you are on that.
Okay, Chris, sorry, I don't agree with what Lisa was saying earlier. I think the answer to Pakistan's problems is less U.S. involvement. It's less U.S. meddling in Pakistan's affairs. People in Pakistan see the U.S. as a power that brought in this, that helped bring in these corrupt politicians in power. I mean, it was the U.S. and British pressure which forced the insecure military ruler to strike deals and bring these exiled corrupt leaders back into power. And they've never enjoyed any instability because they don't actually have any sort of, people in Pakistan don't trust them, and they never will, because they know the history of these politicians. They've been in power before, they've been in ministries before, everybody's seen what they've done, and the more the U.S. tries to prop them up, you know, it's just going to backfire on everyone, and that's what we're seeing at the moment.
Dan, if I can stay with you, so do you think that accounts for what people say the growth of polarization and radicalization among Pakistanis? And it used to be, and I need confirmation from you, people would say it was from the poor segments of society. Now it's moving up into the middle class. Is that a fair characterization?
I think if you can't judge it by this particular incident. It's an isolated incident, and the thing is, with the root of the problem is the U.S. occupation of Afghanistan. You have to realize there's more Pashtuns in Pakistan than in Afghanistan, so it affects Pakistani society just as badly as it does in Afghanistan. And every drone attack, every time there's civilians killed, which is on a daily basis these days, it sets back the efforts to improve the U.S. image. Every person killed, every single drone attack, it just sets the whole effort back, and it's going to make it much more difficult. And no amount of billions of aids or aid can ever fix that.
Okay. Robert, you know, in looking at the sort of quote, war on terror, I mean, I was explaining to my colleagues here on the CrossTalk team.
I love the way you use the word war on terror. Well, I love the way you use the word
so-called war on terror. I know how you feel about that term, and that's why I say so-called.
I prefer so-called, if you wouldn't mind.
I usually use it all the time.
Okay.
Anyway, I was explaining to my colleagues here on the CrossTalk team a phrase that came from the Vietnam War. We had to destroy the village to save it. And is that what's happening to Pakistan? To win Afghanistan, the Americans are willing to watch Pakistan be disabled.
You know, I don't think the Americans understand Pakistan. It was very interesting that when Richard Holbrooke was appointed as the peace envoy, peace quote-unquote envoy to, he was made peace envoy to Pakistan and Afghanistan, not to Pakistan, Afghanistan and Kashmir. Because the real issue of Pakistan is not about Afghanistan, it's about Kashmir. And as long as there is injustice in Kashmir, the war in Afghanistan will continue. The war in Afghanistan is about Kashmir, just as the war in the Middle East is about Palestine. And if you don't deal with injustice in Kashmir, you will not solve the problems of Afghanistan. I know this. I am going to Afghanistan in 2 days' time. And the problems of Afghanistan are the problems of Kashmir. But the Americans will not deal with this. They will not address this. They will not focus on this.
Okay, Lisa, I know you.
So
Lisa, I know you have some expertise in this too. Would you agree with Robert on that?
Yes.
Go right ahead.
I think that's an oversimplification of the Kashmir issue and the history of Indo-Pakistani tensions. The U.S. simply can't just come in, wave its magic wand, and hand Kashmir to Pakistan. That's not going to happen. Now, I will acknowledge that part of the problems we face is that the Pakistan military establishment sees that the support for these terrorist groups like Lashkar-e-Taiba, Harakat al-Mujahideen, Jaish-e-Mohammed, that has been helpful to Pakistan in sort of bleeding India in Kashmir. And they're reluctant to give up this tool of militancy, support for religious extremism, to use as a tool against India and, frankly, in the form of the Taliban in Afghanistan, to assert their strategic interests, and that's part of the problem. And I think if we look at the fact that just this week, Pakistan has released from detention a terrorist leader, Qari Saifullah Akhtar, the head of Harakat al-Jihadi Islami. This is a terrorist who has been implicated in assassination attempts on Benazir Bhutto, on President Musharraf. He's been implicated in a coup attempt in 1995 in Pakistan. So he's clearly an enemy of the Pakistani state. Now, if Pakistan cannot keep this kind of dangerous leader, this threat to Pakistan itself, in jail, I think that raises some very serious questions about the overall law and order situation in Pakistan. And, you know, the Pakistan military may believe that his relief serves some kind of tactical interest, trying to control these militant groups, which have become the Frankenstein's monster for Pakistan. However, I think that in the long run, his release only weakens the authority of the state, and in the long term, that's going to be more instability in Pakistan.